Hey everybody, it's Camille. I'm in my corner and I have a special guest. I've known this young man for a while, and with everything that's going on around the world, um, if you are not familiar, just search Ahmaud Arbery. He was a young man in outside of Atlanta jogging on February 23rd when he was had a confrontation and shot and killed by two white men. Well, just recently, Nikkolas Smith, who we'll meet right now, um, he's an artist and he draws sketches every once in a while. And this past week, he drew a sketch that just really touched me. And let's say hello to Nikkolas Smith.
How's it going, guys? Nice to meet you all.
So, Nikkolas, give us a little bit about your background.
Okay, so I grew up in Houston, Texas. Went to school in Hampton, Virginia for architecture, and then ended up here in Los Angeles, California, where I am as an artist. For 11 years, I worked for the Walt Disney Company doing architecture for theme parks. And then, last year I decided it was time for me to jump into full time freelance illustration.
Mhm.
And that's what I do now. I create art all day, every day. I create concept art for films and create movie posters like Black Panther.
Yeah.
Um, and children's books. I write, illustrate children's books, and just constantly making art all the time.
All right. That sounds great. So, with the events of, well, it happened in February, but with the events of the video coming out last week and everything, like what what struck you about this case that made you want to do some art?
Well, I the first time I saw the video, Sean King shared it on his Instagram, and it really I didn't do anything for a couple days because I was just saddened, angered. I didn't want to make anything, and after a couple days, the tension and all the anger and sadness kept building, and I was just thinking I have to do something for this life that was taken. And typically I'll do like a sketch every Sunday. I have a series called Sunday Sketch. For the past 7 years that I just create a new art piece every Sunday, and I look at what's going on in the world and try to reflect that. And but this time, it wasn't a Sunday, but I was just like, I have to make something.
Yeah.
And so I just decided I'm going to take like this pain that I'm feeling, this frustration, this anger,
Yeah.
and try to channel it towards an art piece. And typically, I'll create something joyful, um, even in a scene that might have been tragic.
Hmm.
Maybe somebody was murdered. I'll typically create, find the moment of joy in their life or in that moment, like I did with Tatiana Jefferson or Nipsey Hussle. Um, but for this one, I was just like, I am going to show the injustice and the sadness and the pain.
I could see the pain if I could read. It really, really struck me. The art piece itself was very powerful, but what you wrote was, today I will not draw joy. Today I draw pain. Today I sketch injustice. Today I paint a prayer. If I should die before I run, I pray the Lord my case is won. Now, why those words with the sketch?
Um, well, for one, I when I was painting him, I actually painted a version of him with his eyes open. But then I just felt strongly about like having his eyes closed, and the pain and anguish that was on his face. It
Mm.
just kind of evoked that he was praying, or he was giving some sort of prayer, or like maybe a final prayer. And so um, I immediately thought of like one of the most classic, iconic prayers that we've at some point all
Right.
done. And so it's kind of a variation of that, but just to say, like, a lot of these people who are unjustly murdered, they they can't speak for themselves. They're gone, and it's like a lot of I would imagine that a lot of them would just hope that there is some justice
Yeah.
served, some sort of justice served after something like this happens. And
So, I mean, people are protesting, people are writing and emailing and calling, but you are an activist through your art. Like, how did that progress?
wow, well, I would say about 7 years ago, when kind of when I started the Sunday Sketch series, I had created a piece of Martin Luther King Jr. in a hoodie, and it was around the time that it's kind of in response to the murder of Trayvon Martin.
Mm.
And this piece, it was really a piece that, well, first of all, it became at the time my most viral piece, and it was, put on CNN, and then I was asked to go on CNN and talk about it,
Mhm.
and I got a chance to talk about Dr. King's ideal of not nobody judging anyone else for their outward appearance. And so that was the moment where I really realized like the power of activist art, what I call now artivism.
Mm.
Um, and it's
Say that
it
again and define it.
the
Artivism.
art of it. It's really art and activism,
Hmm.
which I say is using art as a way to inspire people to create some sort of positive change in the world. And that when that happened with the MLK and the Trayvon thing, it was like, okay, this is something that I can do with my art to really try to change perspective and get people to see through the eyes of someone else. And so
Right.
I just that was when the Sunday Sketch series began, and every Sunday it's just been something new.
Yeah.
And yeah, now there's hundreds of different activist art pieces that I've created.
So you use what you had at hand, right? And I think a lot of people think, and I've talked to people, and they're like, well, I mean, what can I do? I'm nobody. What can I do? But
Hmm.
talk to people about like using their skill, using their knowledge, using their thing, or just using their ability to pick up a phone or email.
Yeah. Well, for me, I realized at some point in these 7 years that, for one, my passion is art, and so that is the thing that I realized that speaks to people more. I was My profession was architecture and designing, theme parks and buildings and things like that. But my passion was art. So I had to first realize that, okay, this is my passion, and then okay, I'm going to use my passion every day, what that thing is, to speak to people. So whatever it is that is your passion, I would say first focus on that and use that to, some people have a great way of just communicating with people, just talking to people, and they decide, okay, I'm going to go out and just interview people. It
Mhm.
might be random people on the street. um, but whatever that thing is that you do well, that you always have been told that you do this thing very well, like, don't run from it, just like embrace it and use that as the thing. And then also I would say just consistency. Like, when I started, I was just like, I'm just gonna do one piece every week, like one thing every 7 days, and it just, over 7 years, it added up and became
Mhm.
something that, like, it's turned into, you know career opportunities and book deals and, you know
Right.
a whole host of other things. So,
So Nick, I have a question from, I have a son, he's 25. He's actually 2 weeks younger than Ahmad. Ahmad
oh,
just greatest Ahmad just had his, well, he didn't get to celebrate, but his birthday
right,
just this
yeah,
past weekend. My son's birthday is in 2 weeks. 25, about to be 26, same age. So I think about that, from a mom's perspective.
Hmm.
Young man, young black man going through this, like how from Trayvon to Ahmaud, explain what that span of time has been for you.
Oh man, um, it's there. There have been. It seems like clockwork. It will happen at least 2 times a year.
Mm,
Trayvon, where it's like something there's some big rallying cry around some very unjust, sometimes racist event that takes place where might be a Freddie Gray or Alton Sterling or something happens every year where I I feel so led to just create some sort of artistic rallying cry, a visual piece that speaks to the fact that there needs to be change. It might be police brutality. You know, it might be just a hate crime. You know, whatever it is, it might be gun violence in schools. Something happens consistently, and it's just sadly those are usually like my most viral art pieces.
yeah,
And I hate that that has to be that way, but it's constantly happened since Trayvon.
yeah,
And so at this point there's been so many different pieces where um, this happens, and within a day or two I create something to signify that
mm,
sometimes it's just like a wake up call. Like this art piece is just showing you the ugly truth of what's going on.
right, right, right.
Sometimes it's like as a concept artist, I create the world that I want to see, and
Mm,
so it might be showing, this is the world that this is what it should like we
right,
just saw the reality of the broken picture. Now this is the picture that should be painted. And so it's just been kind of like a back and forth between those two things, but it's constantly there is something every year that happens where unfortunately where
yeah.
I have something to reflect and show that this is wrong, this needs to be fixed.
And you started your post with "Today I will not post joy" because that's usually what you want to
Yeah,
represent, right? And I
right.
can't help but notice the Incredibles Obama's family behind you,
Yeah, yeah.
and
My
and
favorite, maybe my favorite piece, I don't know, because
yeah.
it was
So that gets me to your a lot of your sketches are on your website. They're for sale. You have books. Tell me about your books and how those came about.
yeah. I grew up, like I said, in Spring, Houston, Texas, and I grew up going to school with Simone Biles' brothers. And so when she was at the Olympics, I said, when she wins a gold medal, I'm gonna make some art for her. And so she won a gold medal, and I made a piece. And that was like a few days before Sunday. So I made that one piece, and then people kept saying, "Well, Simone Manuel also won a gold medal. She's from Houston." So I made a piece of two of them on Saturday, and then people kept saying all these other women who won gold medals. And so for the Sunday sketch, I made like maybe like 10 or 11 women who won gold medals that weekend,
Mhm.
and I wanted to make a children's book, so I kind of made it look like the cover of a children's book.
Yeah.
And when I posted it, and that became like super viral through a bunch of different celebrities posting,
Mm.
and then Barnes and Noble saw it on Facebook, and they contacted me and they said, "Can you turn this art piece into a book in 3 weeks?" And
Wow.
I said, "Yes, I can."
Yeah.
Uh,
So.
yeah, absolutely. And so that was kind of the beginning of my journey to become a published author and illustrator.
Yeah.
And then a few weeks later, I finished it, and that Thanksgiving it was in Barnes and Noble. So
That's amazing.
that was how it all kicked off. And then after that, I was like, okay, I can make more. I can make,
Yeah.
I have many more stories to tell. So now I'm just, I'm creating more books and developing more stories and ideas.
Well, I'm very proud of you.
Thank you.
I'm very close to your mom,
Yes,
so I'm very proud of you. Like I'm an auntie. I'm a Houston auntie.
yes, absolutely.
So tell everybody how they can get in touch with you.
You can contact me or check out my work at nikkolas.com. That's Nikkolas. Or Nikkolas.art. Nikkolas.art is more my shop, and it has all my books and prints and all that good stuff, t-shirts, everything.
So spell your name one more time.
And because my mom decided that she wanted to have a unique spelling for my name, I can have Nikkolas.com. So it's two K's. So it's Nikkolas.
Easy, easy. Nikkolas.com.
Yeah.
So check him out. He has his books, he has his artwork, some very powerful pieces, some very joyful pieces. So check him out. And Nikkolas, I want to thank you for being my guest in the corner today.
Thank you.
And let's hope that we don't have to. You won't have to sketch any more hashtags or any more Black men that are tragically taken before their time.
That's the prayer. Yes.
Okay, thank you, Nikkolas.
Thank you so much.
I'm Camille, and thank you for joining me in the corner. Hey, if you have any ideas of topics you want me to talk about, just leave me a message, and you might see them in the corner. All right, take care. Bye.